Hello, movie friends. Welcome back to the show. Anthony here.
And James here. Today's going to be a fun one. We're going to talk about the funniest movies of the 21st century, and we made a huge list, and we're going to break them down into specific categories, and it should be a lot of fun. You know, we love comedy films, even though we haven't really talked about too many of them on the show, but we've been huge comedy fans for a long time, and some of our favorite movies are comedies, so this should be a lot of fun. Really excited about this one.
Real quick, who's your favorite comedic actor?
Of all time?
Yeah.
Probably Jim Carrey.
Great pick.
Yeah.
I go with Will Ferrell.
Yeah, he's up there too.
I think Will Ferrell is just like the funniest guy to ever live.
Well,
He's
I think
hilarious.
Will Ferrell dominated the 2000s, especially like 2000, 2010 was his decade, and then Jim Carrey was like the 90s was the biggest star on the planet, let alone the biggest comedic actor. But then like Robin Williams is great as well, Bill Murray for sure. But there's so many great comedians. I mean, Eddie Murphy was huge in the 90s, Mike Myers was huge, so many great to choose from. But I think for me, it's Jim.
That's a great pick. What's your favorite comedy movie? What's number one?
Oh man, I was not expecting that.
I threw a curveball at you.
It's tough to choose, man. Of all time or 21st century.
What's yours of all time?
All time, it's really hard to choose. Maybe Ace Ventura, maybe Anchorman. Man, Pineapple Express. I adore that movie. It's really hard to pick.
You gotta pick one.
Maybe Ace Ventura.
Nice
the
pick.
original. The
Nice
original.
pick.
The opening scene of that when he's delivering the UPS package.
Amazing. I think Anchorman might be my favorite comedy. I think it's such a brilliant comedy. There's nothing like it, and nothing was ever. People tried to emulate it, and they never could. It's just amazing.
Everyone listening, just send us a DM or a YouTube comment of what your favorite comedy is all time, and we'll respond to you for sure. We're curious to see your responses.
And this list is 2000 and post 2000. So because we were making the list, and we were like, there's so many comedy movies that are great. So we had to narrow it down. Then we were like, let's just do 21st century, and then we can do before that another time. And also, when we were making the 21st century list, our list was gigantic, and we were like, we don't want to erase any of these.
I know. How do you pick just 20 of them?
Yeah. So now
because it's so subjective.
Yeah, exactly. So we made a huge list, and we're broken them down into sections to organize them into kind of genres or how we think certain movies fit together in a category. So we hope you enjoy this list. It's not in order, but we think we have a really solid list for you.
Before we get into the episode, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast is use our coupon codes as well as becoming a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. You'll get awesome perks like our podcast schedules, personalized videos, Patreon shoutouts, weekly bonus episodes, and monthly Zoom calls. Plus, Godfather tiers get their own custom episode that they choose. We also launched our podcast masterclass online course last year for anyone who wants to start a podcast or improve their current podcast. Our 22-chapter 46 video lesson course will give you all the secrets behind the scenes of our show. The link is podcastmasterclass.teachable.com, or just go to our website, raidersoftheLostPodcast.com. It's right there on the homepage, as well as all of our content merch. Thanks so much for tuning in around the world. Be sure to follow, subscribe wherever you're listening. Now let's get into the funniest movies of the 21st century. And the first section we're going to do is Legendary Comedy.
No, this is just God tier level comedy.
God tier.
These are like
elite.
In 60 years, people will be like, yeah, I remember this movie. That was an iconic one. And so some of these movies have some of the same actors, because I think that, these actors and these writers and these filmmakers, they were peak comedy for film for over a decade. So the first one on this list is Step Brothers, the iconic duo, John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell. I think this is one of the funniest movies ever made. It still, to this day, holds up.
Yeah, I've watched it like 10 times, and it's still funny every time, and especially if you have siblings, it just gets funnier each time you watch it, and it's so quotable, and everyone references parts of this movie, like the Room for Activities quote and stuff like that.
It might be the most
Bunk
referenced
beds.
movie.
It's a classic. Pam. I mean, you can talk about this movie all goddamn day. It's so fun to watch.
And then we have The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Judd Apatow's debut, and Steve Carell's big breakout in film. I think this is hysterical. Also, it's just a great story, a great character piece, you could say. It's probably the best character piece out of all this entire list. The character,
the film bro and Anthony just called The 40-Year-Old Virgin a character piece. I love it.
It is, and it's really relatable, really funny. You see a lot of these actors in their early role. It's terrific.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Carell is a legend. He's one of the funniest people of the 21st century as well. And
Paul Rudd.
Andy is so great as a character. It's ridiculously funny. The Apatow crew, when they're still young, still iconic. And then obviously this influenced The Office and Michael Scott in the new direction they were taking with the character after season 1 wasn't going so well. Love 40-Year-Old Virgin. We all know Anthony's on his way to being there at some point. Next up, we have Borat, the original from Sacha Baron Cohen. And like when he had his TV show on HBO, the Ali G in the House, he did
Ali G show.
So it was Ali G, Borat, and then Bruno were the 3 characters he did, each one equally as funny. But Borat was the second one that got a movie because he did Ali G in the House in like 2002. But Borat just like took the nation by storm. It was so funny, so satirical, and it's just a ridiculous comedy.
It was genius because he's just in real life situations, and he's such a great performer to just be in character in these environments and around real people.
The improvisation is insane.
It's all improv, and it's amazing what he did. He's such a talented comedian.
And
Sacha
just like
Baron Cohen.
going into environments with real people and their homes and stuff like that. It's crazy.
And this was such a word of mouth sensation. Everybody saw it. It was a huge hit. Next up, we have Meet the Parents. It's an iconic Ben Stiller movie with De Niro, and it's such a great setup. And what works is the characters are so funny together, pitting the CIA dad with the male nurse son-in-law. And it's just terrific dynamics, great screenplay. Ben Stiller's character just keeps ruining thing after thing after thing. It's just it gets worse and snowballs, and it's a out of control movie. It's so much fun.
And there's so many movies of like meeting the family, meeting your future significant other's family, but this one just like takes the cake. It's like the pinnacle of those. And then we have Old School, which was the start of Will Ferrell's comedic stardom in film. He's coming like right off SNL. I think he might have still been on that one more season of SNL. And then he did Old School, where he's not the lead character, but he's the funniest part of the movie. And this just created his new film persona of being the most ridiculous comedic actor alive.
We're going streaking
through the quad into the gymnasium. Ridiculous premise of a movie.
We were quoting this in middle school.
If you think about it, like objectively, it's a very creepy movie where these dudes like move into a college neighborhood and start throwing college parties. They're like 40 years old.
Yeah, I know the people at the parties are all adults, but it's really, really weird.
And then we have Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. Not only was this a superstar-making role for Will Ferrell, but it might be the best movie of all time when it comes to cameos. There are so many great cameos in this movie, especially the news anchor fight. We have so many great comedians and actors in that as well. But I mean, just the concept of Anchorman, the opening credit sequence, it gets you into the mood of like you're about to watch one of the funniest movies of your life. Ron Burgundy is one of the most ridiculous characters of all time, and we were like entering a new like world of comedy, and Will Ferrell was definitely leading it.
Yeah, Ron Burgundy might be like the crown jewel of comedy characters. He's just so ridiculous and unrealistic, but so much fun to watch. And the improvisation, this is Will Ferrell just doing what he does best. I think he might be the best improvisational comedic actor of all time.
You know I don't speak Spanish. Baxter, you ate a whole wheel of cheese?
I remember in school, everybody was saying, and it's not just a couple of quotes, like there are so many quotes in this movie that everybody would say constantly.
Because it came out when we were in high school,
2004.
2004. Yeah. And then it was still popular when I went to college.
Yeah.
People were still talking about it.
Yeah.
It was that popular.
It had a high rewatchability. That's why.
It might be the most rewatchable movie of all time. It's ridiculously funny.
Yeah.
The most quotable movie on this list, possibly.
I think so. Next up, we have Zoolander, another Ben Stiller film. I think that this movie is just genius the way it spoofs the film industry and models, not just saying models are all dumb, people who look beautiful, but also spoofing like the nature of the film industry. And, you know, Ben Stiller crafted this hilarious, goofy, silly story while also making a great comment about, you know, factory work across the world. It's very subtle. People don't really connect it, but that's what this film is making fun of, and it has a lot to say while it's making you laugh constantly. And Ben Stiller as Zoolander, again, iconic comedic character.
I think they're breakdance fighting. Who am I?
I don't know.
Great cameos as well. We have David Bowie in this, and like Natalie Portman. It's ridiculous, so funny, an absurd character. And, you know, Ben Stiller is one of the best of all time in the comedy world. And he's an icon. Zoolander's hilarious. Or you didn't think I knew what a googly was.
I heard not too many people read your Time magazine.
You have 3,000 messages.
That is a bit above average.
Next up, we have This Is the End, which is a more recent film on this in this section. This Is the End is just, I think, kind of genius and hysterical, where all these actors are playing comedic or satirical parodied versions of themselves and having fun with it. And it's also throwing in post-apocalyptic end of the world scenarios. And it's just ridiculous. It's so funny. Everyone in this movie is hysterical. And I love watching this one.
Not everyone loves this. To enjoy This Is the End, you have to love the guys.
Yeah, I guess.
So if you're fans of theirs and the Judd Apatow movies, then this is a perfect movie for you.
Because maybe some people don't get some of the jokes.
I've definitely known people who they aren't big fans of this and they didn't really understand it.
I guess that's right, because if you know the characters and the actors so well, you know they're playing hilarious versions of themselves, like Jonah Hill, because he had just gotten an Oscar nomination for Moneyball. He's like now a super pretentious, thinks he's an important actor. He's like,
fake nice guy.
Jonah Hill, J-Bones, America's sweetheart. They'll save actors, Clooney, me, if there's time, some of you. But also he wants to kill like Jay Baruchel.
Please God, please kill Jay Baruchel.
Why did you make him? Like, what happened that day? I think he's the worst person you've ever made. It's hysterical. Franco, Craig Robinson, Seth Rogen, everyone's so good in this movie.
Love it. Next up, we have The Hangover, which catapulted actors like Bradley Cooper and Zach Galifianakis into stardom. This is
What about Ed Helms?
And Ed Helms, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't say he's a superstar.
He's a comedic star.
He's a comedic star, you're right. Ed, I'm sorry. You just Nard Dog, I'm sorry.
He just canceled his Patreon.
But this is just a genius setup for a movie. I think it might be like the most genius concept of this entire list. Just three guys wake up in Vegas. There's a tiger in the room. There's a baby. Mike Tyson. Like, what the hell? This is
groom
crazy.
is missing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible.
In the trailer for this, it's one of the funniest,
It's one of the best trailers
enticing trailers I've ever seen in my life. It's still so. If you rewatch, it's like, wow, I'm definitely going to see that movie.
Yeah.
It was a great trailer, and it was a huge success. And then these three dudes got enormous off of this.
Yeah, they made $20 million for the third one each.
Yeah, and then Bradley Cooper is an Oscar winner now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So The Hangover, Legendary. Now that ends our Legendary Comedy category. And again, this is subjective. This is just our list.
And modern comedy, remember.
21st century.
Yeah.
Now, next up, we're going to do a section on superhero comedy, because as we know, comedies changed so much and evolved that like a lot of the Marvel movies are the funniest movies coming out every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually made a solid list, I think, of superhero comedy movies, starting with Kick-Ass, because I think Kick-Ass was like the original superhero movie to make a great comedy at the same time and supersede the genres and blend them together so well.
While being rated R.
Yeah, not that like Iron Man isn't funny. Even The Dark Knight is there's a lot of funny jokes in that movie, but I think Kick-Ass was the first one to like blend it super well.
Kick-Ass was the first one where you could put it in the genre of comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a superhero comedy. It's not just a superhero movie.
Like, I'll never forget, one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in my life, I feel like, was when Hit Girl starts killing all those guys inside the apartment, and like the little kid music's playing around, and she's just like smiling and stuff.
It's crazy.
It's
She's
so
just
funny.
having a blast.
It's super fun. Chloe Grace Moretz is hysterical in that movie.
She steals every scene
And
she's
then
in.
Aaron Taylor Johnson's great as the lead, but
Nick
Kick-Ass,
Cage.
it's really good.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy, yeah.
Next up, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. I think the funniest Marvel movie so far. James Gunn is a hysterical writer. He made two really funny movies before the Slither and Super. And he knocked it out of the park with this. I had to say it. But it really is the cast that makes it. It's well cast, and they all are just terrific with comedy, which is hard to do for a lot of actors.
Yeah, and this started, like we talked about, the intergalactic universe traveling in scope of the MCU, and also with the insane success of Guardians of the Galaxy, of these characters that the average person had no idea existed. It made the MCU realize that we can do whatever we want.
We can do
now.
anything.
Anything can work. Anything can hit. So we're just going to swing for the fences on everything now.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And then we have Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, which are both very, very funny movies. Obviously, we had to get Ryan Reynolds on this list. The first one, I think, is funnier than the second one.
Yeah.
But the second one has more like meta jokes and like some of the more like X-Men jokes. And I think just Ryan Reynolds is a star, and he was born to be Deadpool.
And it showed that people craved the R-rated humor combined with superheroes. They wanted that raunchy, not PG humor. They wanted Ryan Reynolds to be Ryan Reynolds.
Plus the inside jokes, not just comic book stuff, but the fact that, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are great friends, but also have that comedic, sarcastic rivalry going on. And
so great.
And then it's like watching Logan die on like the stump. He's like, how am I supposed to compete with that? He's like, it's crazy. It's so great.
It's perfect.
It's just like little things like that make it so personal.
Next up, we have Thor Ragnarok, directed by Taika Waititi. And this is such a hilarious film. I think it was a breath of fresh air for Marvel, and allowed Hemsworth to use his natural comedic charisma. If you've seen him in interviews, he is a very funny dude, and they let him embrace that finally.
Compared to Thor 1, where he's got bleached eyebrows, a bleached beard, weird yellow hair, and just like...
Has a couple of funny lines.
Doesn't really look human, and he's not very personable. He has the coffee line, like, what's this? I want another.
Another.
It's funny, but like, you're right. Chris Hemsworth is a personable, hilarious guy.
Yeah.
Just let him flex that muscle. Next up, we have Ant-Man, starring Paul Rudd. Now, this movie is, I think, an underrated comedy in the MCU universe, specifically because Edgar Wright wrote the first original script for this film, who's a great comedic and action director. We all love him so much. Unfortunately, he dropped out of directing Ant-Man because of creative differences, but I'm sure they kept a lot of the same sequences and jokes that he wrote. I think like one of the funniest moments in the MCU is when their small Yellow Jacket versus Ant-Man on the train set, and like in their world and their perspective, it's like giant trains colliding, and then it zooms out to like the kids' perspective, and they just like little toy trains crash into each other.
Yeah, they don't even make a sound.
So I think it's super funny, and I think Edgar Wright, if he's working on a script, it's gonna be hilarious.
Also, Adam McKay and Paul Rudd rewrote it, so they injected their humor into it. Next up, we have Hancock, which Will Smith stars in. He was a superhero before Marvel was even making superhero movies. Marvel Studios. This is a terrific original superhero. It's not based on anything. I thought it was really cool, really funny, rated R. Charlize Theron's also a great co-star, and Will Smith just kills it.
It gets serious in the second half, but I think the first half of this movie is
very
hysterical.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's awesome. A great take.
It's a great tone that they captured as well, too. And now we're going to move into our high school comedy section, and we'll begin with Superbad, which is one of our favorite movies of all time.
It's the GOAT.
And it might be the funniest movie on this list, possibly.
It's the GOAT of high school comedy.
High school movies, it's the funniest for sure. Absolutely love Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, Christopher Mintz-Plasse in this movie. The three of them together are so funny. I don't think we'll ever see a high school comedy capture this kind of magic ever again.
I agree. I think it's a special movie that we just gotta keep watching once a year. It's terrific.
It's vulgar. It hasn't completely aged well, but you know what? I still love it.
Yeah, I still laugh your ass off. There's another great one that came out recently. It's The Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld, and I always say her name wrong, Steinfeld. I think it's a really terrific, underrated film. She co-stars with Woody Harrelson and a great young cast. It's really funny. It's really endearing, and she plays a really terrific character. Highly recommend.
Next up, we have Mean Girls, which is an iconic comedy, one of the best high school movies ever made in general, outside of just the comedy genre.
I love this
starring
movie.
Lindsay Lohan. And this movie's hysterical. Tina Fey, Amy Poehler as well, and the cast is really great.
I'm a cool mom.
The story's great. The jokes, every one of the jokes lands in this movie. It's really great. On Tuesdays we wear pink, or is it Wednesdays? I'm sorry.
Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays we wear pink.
Jesus.
Sorry,
have
ladies.
you even seen the movie?
I have a few times. It's great. It's iconic. And this was like, Lindsay Lohan hit a peak right here, and then obviously we know her career like went sideways a little bit, but
and then obviously Rachel McAdams and then Amanda Seyfried have had great careers since.
That's right. Rachel McAdams is the villain in this movie, and this came out, and The Notebook came out, I think, in the same year, which is she had a huge year.
Yeah.
So Mean Girls is iconic.
Next up, we have 21 Jump Street, which was the remake of the classic TV show starring Johnny Depp, and this time we have Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, basically spoofing the idea of remakes. A lot of meta humor and a really fun ride. I was surprised how funny this was. I was expecting just like a bad movie, but when we watched it, we were laughing nonstop.
Yeah, and thanks to Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill really pioneered getting this movie made with his concept, the meta take, him and his writing partner who wrote the script, and then getting Channing Tatum involved. It is a great comedy, super fun. And then we have Dope, which came out in 2015. This stars Shameik Moore, all you Miles Morales fans. He does the voice for Miles Morales in Spider-Verse films. And this is a great coming-of-age film. These three friends growing up in the modern world who are really into 90s culture, and they're kind of bullied, and people, they look down on them. And it's a great coming-of-age comedy going through high school, stuff like that, as these unpopular 90s culture kids.
Next up, we have Juno, the Oscar-winning screenplay from Diablo Cody, one of 3 Oscar-winning screenplays in this list. We'll get to the other 2 later on. But this is a terrific, extremely original and unique take on the coming-of-age film. It's very funny, very sweet, and very dramatic. I think that she balanced all these facets of storytelling into a great package.
And then we have School of Rock, not quite high school. It's like, what, 5th, 6th grade, something like
school,
that?
Yeah, I think it's 6th grade.
We'll have just one school section.
Yeah.
School of Rock is great. I feel like this really catapulted Jack Black to household name and stardom. He's a great musician, obviously, with his band Tenacious D, and he really got to showcase his musical talents and comedic talents at the same time in this movie. It's a really heartwarming film, a really great journey of the characters and growth, and a lot of great life lessons, and it's a lot of fun.
Made by Richard Linklater.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's awesome. Next up, we have 8th Grade, which was directed and written by Bo Burnham, and I think is one of the best coming-of-age films of all time. It came out several years ago. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's extremely funny, but also very endearing, and such a great, accurate portrayal of young people and how they balance social media, technology, and trying to fit in.
And the final film in our high school comedy section is Lady Bird, the great film, directorial debut from Greta Gerwig, starring Saoirse Ronan. We've done an episode highlighting this film with a couple other coming-of-age films. I think one of the best coming-of-age movies this century for sure. Saoirse Ronan is fantastic in this movie as Lady Bird. Super funny. I found it very relatable because we went to Catholic high school. And I think they just do a great job, following this character study of this girl, Lady Bird. And it's just a really great watch. I think it's hysterical, too.
Next up, we got to get lit, bruh. It's time for stoner comedy.
420, bro. Let's go.
Let's get it.
Smoking doobies. Wait, no, as the kids vape now.
Yeah, they vape now.
Yeah, they vape. Get your refills for the packets.
Oh, the Juuls.
No, but a refill is for like the cartridge.
Oh, with the oil in it. Gotcha.
No, I mean that's what you call it because it runs out. So the cartridge, right?
I know it, kids.
I know it.
I'm hip.
I've seen vapors out there.
The first one on this list, I think, is the best stoner comedy. You probably agree with me. Pineapple Express, Rogan and Franco, genius. It's so fun. It's hysterical. Just a great ride when we saw it in theaters, and it's very rewatchable.
And Franco got a Golden Globe for this movie, right?
I believe he got nominated.
He got nominated. I don't know if he won, but he's hysterical in this movie. Obviously, they won't make a sequel, unfortunately, but, Pineapple Express, I think, will always have a special place in my heart for stoner comedies and comedies in general. It's
Bill Hader in the opening.
It's iconic. It's so funny. Like, man.
This stuff is the bee's knees. We got to get it out there.
I feel like a big old pile of flapjacks with maple syrup melted all over him.
The guy open the movie black and white in World War II. It's amazing.
And the guy comes in with, like, the submarine outfit on. It's so great. So funny.
I love it.
As Anthony likes to say, they're firing on all cylinders in this
That's
movie.
my new one, guys.
It is a great movie. So funny. And then this is the end. They make like the fake sequel to it. Yeah. Danny McBride in this obviously is so good. Obviously, we forgot to shout out Danny McBride, and this is the end.
This is the end, yeah.
One of the most iconic character reveals of all time, I think, is when he's smoking a joint inside the bathtub with his boots hanging out.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
And then we have Harold and Kumar, a great stoner comedy. This one actually makes you really hungry when you watch it because the whole plot of it is trying to get to White Castle to get burgers. These two stoner best friends, they've had a rough day, a rough week, and they're just trying to get their burgers, and they get into all kinds of shenanigans, some great cameos as well.
So we used to watch Harold and Kumar with our friends all the time. We would, we would never do stuff like that. No, never, but...
We'd have a good time.
Yeah, we'd have a good time and watch Harold and Kumar. It was great.
It was up there.
Extremely rewatchable. I think we must have seen it maybe 30 times. Maybe. In like 2 years.
We watched this all the time when we were kids.
Yeah. Next up, we have Ted, which stars Mark Wahlberg and Seth MacFarlane as the title character. And obviously, we all know this as the Boston set movie where Mark Wahlberg's best friend is a living teddy bear. Super funny.
Yeah, kid.
Thunder Buddies for life.
Greatest cameo of all time from Tom Brady, the GOAT. It's the craziest concept of a movie when they're trying to do stuff like that. But it's super fun. I like the take. It's a good time. The CGI is solid, and Ted's hysterical. Then we have Knocked Up. This is another Judd Apatow film, and we got that whole crew still before they're all super famous and Oscar nominated and all that. And, it's a stoner comedy as well as a great, not coming of age film, but like coming into adulthood film, where all these immature dudes start to grow as adults because they have to take on real responsibilities in life. There's a lot of great life lessons in there. It's really funny, maybe a little too long, like Apatow films usually are, but I still love this movie. Ton of great jokes, great concepts, but also
excellent poster.
Yeah.
Excellent poster. It was just Seth Rogen, like,
imagine this guy got
knocked you up. What?
But, you know, a lot of life lessons dealing with serious things like an accidental pregnancy.
Next up, we have next Friday. We couldn't put the first Friday on because it was in the 90s.
1999.
But next Friday it's a great sequel with the record store, all that. It's a lot of fun. They did a great job.
And the funny thing about it is, in Friday, Craig never smoked weed before until Smokey got him high for the first time. But then in next Friday, Craig is a stoner now.
Yeah.
And now the story is then with him and his uncle, who has a bunch of money, who I think they alluded to in the first one, got like a settlement or something like that.
And there's no Chris Tucker, though, unfortunately. I think he wanted more money.
And then we have Ali G in the house. So this is this is Sacha Baron Cohen's first film. Booyakasha. Let me introduce you to my main man. But this is a narrative fictional story of the character Ali G, rather than his typical mockumentary style
with
filmmaking.
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman is one of his best friends in this movie. It's such a funny movie. It's a great stoner comedy. Ali G is hilarious. It's one of my favorite comedy characters
the opening
of all time.
with the bullets?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous character. And he even brought Ali G to present at the Oscars one time. Him and his wife, Isla Fisher, secretly had the glasses and the skull cap that he wore. So before he presented, because they were like, you can't do anything, and then he went into the bathroom before he presented, put on his Ali G outfit, and then just went on stage. Booyakasha!
Amazing. But everyone loved it. That's why the Oscars, they need to lighten up.
Yeah,
because like people, that was the best part of that entire award ceremony.
Oh, for sure. It was hilarious.
Next up, we have critically acclaimed comedies. Now, this is some of the best films made of the last 20 years, and they are also extremely funny. We're going to start out this list with Wes Anderson's great film, The Grand Budapest Hotel. I think it's the peak of his career so far. It's hysterical, extremely well-written, well-crafted production, everything about it. And Ralph Fiennes is hilarious.
I think it's safe to say that The Grand Budapest Hotel might be the best movie on this entire list.
It's possible, yeah.
It's such an incredible film. It's a masterpiece in filmmaking, comedy, production design, set design, great characters, great acting, incredible script. It is Wes Anderson at his best, and every minute of it is hysterical. Very high rewatch value on that. And then we have Lost in Translation, written and directed by Sofia Coppola. She won Best Screenplay for this film. It's a great movie. We covered it in our episode on Lost in Translation versus Her, and how those are like very spiritually connected movies. And we love this movie. You know, Sofia is a great filmmaker. We just talked about her with Godfather Part 3. And Lost in Translation, it's her best film, and it's one of the best movies made this century, for sure, let alone comedy.
Next up, we have a political film, The Death of Stalin. Now, this is a satirical take on Stalin's final days, and because the filmmakers approach it in this very satirical, ridiculous way because of kind of how ridiculous it was, where Stalin's lieutenants and generals were so afraid of him that like they're afraid to check on if he's okay, if he's dead or not, because and then this film, like, it happens where he's dead and they're like, is he dead? Should we tell anyone? Or because they're still afraid for their lives if he is alive. So it's an amazing take on this crazy situation.
It's a laugh out loud.
It's really funny.
It's really good time.
It's really great.
The jokes really land, and it's very subtle, dry humor. It's hilarious. And then we have another Wes Anderson film, The Royal Tenenbaums. Obviously, you could probably put a lot of Wes Anderson's movies on this list in general, the whole comedy list, but I think The Royal Tenenbaums is his next funniest movie, his next best script, and it's got a ton of great jokes, great characters. I think it's his second best film in general, but I think it definitely deserves to be on the critically acclaimed list.
I think it could be his second best too. It's a great movie. Next up, we have Guy Ritchie's Snatch, an eclectic cast of British actors, as well as Brad Pitt in his illegible speaking. It's hilarious. Great cast, great set of situations. The writing is top notch, like always. It's a great follow up to The Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Guy Ritchie doing what he does best.
Just made the cut for being released in 2000. Then we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A lot of Tarantino's films have great humor and great comedy, but I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has the most jokes in any of his movies, the funniest of all his movies in general, and it was an excellent film, so we had to throw it in critically acclaimed.
Everyone was laughing the whole time, and also it's one of the other Oscar winners on this list.
Yeah, and Leo is so funny in this movie.
He's so funny. That temper tantrum he has.
I think it flies under the radar how funny Leo DiCaprio can be.
Goddamn alcoholic!
He's actually got 2 movies on this list. We'll get to the other one in a little bit.
Hippies! What you goddamn hippies!
I was in my
private road!
I was in my room making a margarita.
Hope everyone's okay. Goddamn hippies sure ain't. That's for sure.
Torch world them.
All right, next up, we have Silver Linings Playbook, which is one of my favorite romantic comedies. It is a comedy, I think. And Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence obviously steal the show on this. They're terrific in Dynamite together.
Dynamite.
David O. Russell's directing is perfect. The screenplay is great. I think it's a really terrific, original romantic film.
All right, how about before we get into the rest of these films, we head on into our intermission because we still have a lot to cover.
We have a ton left, yeah.
So let's do that.
I think we're doing a great job, though. I think you're doing a great job.
I think you're doing an excellent job.
Oh, thanks, man. You know how much that means.
Raiders of the Lost podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Manscaped. The leaders in men's grooming. Use our coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout from manscaped.com to get 20% off your entire order and free shipping worldwide. Besides the Lawnmower 4.0 groomer that we've been talking about for about a year and a half, which will just change your entire grooming life, they also just released their Ultra Premium Collection, which is the ultimate wet goods bundle, which includes deodorant, yes, actual armpit deodorant from Manscaped that smells incredible, body wash, 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner, hydrating body spray, and a free set of Manscaped lip balm. Manscaped's products are dye-free, gluten-free, paraben-free, alcohol-free, cruelty-free, and phthalate-free. I don't know what that word means, but I'm glad that it's free of them.
It's not good for you. I'll tell you that.
So use our coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout to get 20% off your order and free shipping today.
Hey, Jim, do you like movie posters?
I adore movie posters.
Well, if you want to get some, do you know where you can go?
Movieposters.com.
That's right. Head on over to movieposters.com and use our special promo code Raiders10. You know it, Raiders10. To get 10% off your order today. They have a gigantic selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable, everything from the Batman and Spider-Man No Way Home to classics to Tarantino movies. Whatever your poster needs are, they got it, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, backlighting. They got you covered. Again, head on over to movieposters.com and use our special promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order today.
Let's head on into our intermission now, and we'll begin with our movie quote competition. I'll go first, Anthony.
Let's hear it.
I am dipping this potato in crushed Vicodin, and no one can stop me.
That's a good one. Oh, man. I'm dipping this potato in crushed... It's The Martian.
Nice job, man.
Good one. That's a good quote.
Thanks.
Okay.
For some reason, that was nominated for Best Comedy at Golden Globes.
He won.
Best Comedic Act Role. Golden Globes are ridiculous.
Next one. An old man dies. A young woman lives. A fair trade. I love you, Nancy.
Sin City.
Ding, 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 ding.
Nailed it.
Good one.
Nice.
Great job.
Got me for a second. Guess this movie release year. Beverly Hills Ninja. Might be the funniest movie ever.
1998.
97.
Ah, damn it. It's a great movie. Guess this movie release year. Sin City.
2005.
Yes.
Got it.
Great one, man.
2 for 2 over here.
Wow. On fire.
Bad in 1,000.
On fire.
Movie pop quiz time. Now, Anthony, what Christopher Nolan movie features a David Bowie song?
That's a good question. A David Bowie song in a Chris Nolan movie. That's a good question.
Due process of elimination, man.
I mean, is it The Prestige because Bowie's in it? But it's the Radiohead song that plays at the end. Man, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. Shit.
Good question.
It's a very good question. I'm gonna go with. Shit. I'm gonna go with. I don't.
Make a goddamn guess.
I'm gonna go with. The Prestige.
Memento.
Oh, I didn't say Memento. I didn't think they could afford a Bowie song.
Something in the Air is the movie. It's a song in the movie.
Oh, man. Good question. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Here's my quiz. How many Oscar nominations does Bruce Willis have?
0.
Correct. That's a trick question. Good job. 3 for 3, man.
Thanks, man.
Wow.
All right, we got it.
I love how quick you were to answer that.
I was like, there's no fucking way Bruce Willis is an Oscar nomination.
That's great.
All right, what do we got for haters this week? Any unsubscribes?
We got a bunch of unsubscribes. Lots of funny fans this week. Blake Bishop wrote, "When will Anthony just replace James with Juno? Until that happens, I'm unsubscribed." Chewy Nut Cluster wrote, "James is clearly the better twin because he has a Psycho poster. Resubscribed only to James." And then a Vivacious Alice wrote, "I'm pretty sure they're both the same person. I mean, have you seen them in one room together? Unsubscribe." And then Tyler Matthew Moda, "How dare you underappreciate the pure genius of Daddy Pats as the Batman? Unsubscribe."
All right.
And then Frank Balbuena wrote, "He made fun of us for not mentioning SWAT as the Colin Farrell reboot in Intermission last week. Your quiz question was Colin Farrell reboots, and you didn't put SWAT in it."
I think he wrote a 5-star review too.
Yeah, and he wrote unfucking subscribed.
I think the 5-star review might be from him. It's forgot Colin Farrell's masterpiece SWAT reboot in the Batman trivia. How can you even consider yourself movie?
Yeah,
fans?
I think that's it.
Unsubscribed.
Also, but for real hate, we posted a Batman video where I said one thing about like not loving how Batman left the scene of that giant car wreck on the freeway. And we had to delete the clip off TikTok because it was covered with hate. We were getting swarms of trolls attacking us for me having one small issue about a movie.
8.8.
We had to delete the clip because it was so toxic. So that's our hater of the week.
The internet is a toxic place.
Yeah.
All right, we have a bunch of great 5-star reviews recently, so I'll do a couple of them. This one's from Jay Dizzle up in here. "The Riddler knows the Batman spoilers, so heads up, there's going to be some Batman spoilers. I loved your Batman episode, and I think you're right about the Riddler initially not knowing that Bruce Wayne was the Batman, as evidenced by his writing a message to Batman to find following what he believed would be the death of Bruce Wayne. That being said, the Riddler is supposedly the only person in the Batman universe that can compete intellectually with Batman. So, following the failed murder attempt, if Riddler just wanted Bruce dead, he would have tried again, but that is never seen because Riddler discovers the truth. Then why they have the confrontation in Arkham? Riddler is also aware of the cameras rolling, so he alters his speech to prevent revealing the Bat's identity because the Riddler is a narcissist and wants to be the one to defeat the Batman and prove himself to be the superior mind. Love your podcast and would love to hear what you think of this theory. Keep up the good work." I think that's a solid theory. I think that at the end of the day, we all just officially don't know until we hear Matt Reeves say it, I guess.
I think that could definitely be true, where he knows it, but he's not letting the cameras know.
Yeah, I think just according to the film, we assume that Riddler does know, but it's possible that he does know. That's and
it's possible. What would be a great storyline is if Riddler uncovers Bruce's identity in the second film.
Maybe, but it seems like a plausible theory. I think that's very solid.
I think that's a great theory, pal.
I appreciate that one, and I think maybe we'll learn more about Riddler in the next film, in the third film. Another one from Planet C8. "James and Anthony do their research and produce entertaining weekly podcasts filled with fun trivia, comedy, and most importantly, movie facts." Thank you so much. And also Ryan Saros, who left that 1-star review that was super sarcastic, wrote an apology. He wrote a really great little 5-star review. He changed his review to 5. thanks so much, Ryan, for the kind words. It's super long. I don't have time to read the whole thing, but overall, he's like, I'm offering my sincerest apologies from that 1-star to 5-star review. I think his sarcasm maybe didn't come across to us as well.
Okay, yeah, because
I figured it was sarcastic.
If it was 5-star review, you could tear us apart. We don't care.
Yeah, but
so the 1-star threw us off. That's what
he recommends us doing another Q&A episode, which would actually be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do that pretty soon.
It's been a while since.
But
the last
Ryan,
one.
thanks for tuning in. We figured you were being sarcastic, but we didn't fully know. But you're the best. Appreciate you tuning in every week.
Thanks, pal. Our Godfather Patreon shout out for this episode is Dennis. He has been a patron for a while and bumped up to Godfather recently. He has chosen Beverly Hills Cop as his Godfather bonus episode.
Hell yeah.
So we can't wait to chat about that one.
Talk about Axel. Let's go.
Thanks, buddy.
My streaming recommendation is a show on Apple TV, Severance. I've been recommended it by a lot of people. I've watched a couple episodes. I like it a lot so far, so check it out. It's a really interesting concept where people can have their memories basically erased when they go to work all day, and they leave work not remembering they were at work.
My recommendation is The Shape of Water on Hulu, the Best Picture winner.
Nice pick.
Thanks.
All right, now let's get back into our episode on the funniest movies of the 21st century, and we're starting up again with our new section of spoof parody movies, starting with Scary Movies 1, 2, and 3, which all came out this century. All three super funny. Each one spoofs different movies. The first one's obviously like Scream and stuff like that, and then the second one is
Haunted House.
But
Haunting on
also
Hill
I Know What
yeah.
You Did Last Summer, right? And then the third one is Signs.
I believe the first one is I Know What You Did Last Summer.
And then the third one is Signs, right?
Third one is Signs, and
you're right. The second one was the haunted mansion. Take my strong hand.
my strong hand.
My germs.
The third one's my favorite. The third one's it's so funny.
The second one's really funny
because
too.
The third one makes fun of The Ring as well.
Okay, yeah,
it combines
you're right.
The Ring and
the
Signs.
Ring, Signs.
I'm gonna need a ride home.
But also like the basketball dribbling in the second one with the Nike commercial is so great. The first one's iconic too, but they're so good. The Wayans
they all
brothers
did
are
a great
hysterical.
job.
They did such a good
Each
job
one's
with
good.
these movies.
Next up, we have Ben Stiller's movie Tropic Thunder, which spoofs action movies and also spoofs actors and the idea in filmmaking in general.
In Vietnam films.
Yeah, in Vietnam films. I think it's so funny. It's so quotable. The cast is amazing, and then you get Tom Cruise as Les Grossman. Iconic.
And then Team America, World Police, which is a very offensive movie, has not aged well. But you know,
not.
It's the South Park creators. That's what they do best. It's what they do. They make raunchy,
They offend.
R-rated comedy. They offend people. And this movie, when it came out, was ridiculous. It took the world by storm.
Matt Damon.
It's freaking puppets. It's
puppets.
super funny. It's ridiculous. The vomiting scene is iconic.
Everyone has AIDS.
America. Yeah, coming again to save the motherfucking world. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's just don't take it too seriously. You'll have a good time.
Yeah, it's great. And someone pointed out that I posted a meme that Chris Pine in that sci-fi movie he did with Ava DuVernay. DuVernay looks exactly like the lead character in Team America.
Oh, the hair,
with the hair and the beard. It's so funny. Next up, we have Taika Waititi's What We Do in the Shadows, with some of New Zealand's most prominent actors, a great spoof of vampires in a mockumentary format. It is hilarious, very unique and original, a brilliant comedy.
First half of this movie is laugh out loud, hysterical. It's a great concept. It's just so fun. And then we have the Flight of the Conchords characters like Jermaine, who helped write the movie. Jermaine Clement co-wrote this with him too. I think he co-directed as well. Also a very funny comedian. Then we have Undercover Brother, which stars Eddie Griffin. This movie, I think, is like almost like borderline cult classic comedy where maybe not everyone's seen it, but it is so damn funny. And I'm putting it on the list just because of the mayonnaise scenes where Eddie Griffin, he goes undercover as like a white man, or like he's like marries a white woman, and he's like, she makes him eat mayonnaise on a sandwich, and like they go into like a khaki clothing store. He's like, "Hello, ma'am, how are you doing today?" And like he's too afraid to like eat the mayonnaise. His like tongue touches it. So damn
It's
funny.
great.
Eddie Griffin's hysterical in this.
And then we have Austin Powers in Goldmember. This is a great, the third one in the trilogy.
The other two are in the 1990s.
It's hard to pull off a third movie that's still funny in a comedy franchise, but he did it. He's just peak he was such a big star, Michael Myers, for several years because of these movies. And Austin Powers is one of the best characters ever made in comedy history.
And this was before Beyonce was a superstar.
Yeah.
And
she had just finished up with Destiny's Child, I believe.
She was like starting her
one solo
career.
album.
This is like 2002 or 2003. It's super early.
Yeah.
And then Goldmember also has the opening sequence with Tom Cruise, right?
That's the second one.
Is it?
I believe.
Someone can fact check us on that.
And also, but the best part about Goldmember is we get Michael Caine as his dad.
Yeah. And then action comedy section starting now. We're going to open it up with Rush Hour 2 and 3. Unfortunately, the first one came out in the 90s, so that cannot make this episode. But Rush Hour 2 and 3, I think, are just as funny, just as entertaining. They're just as successful, and I can't wait for the fourth film. And we talked about these movies a little bit in depth in our Jackie Chan episode on Monday.
Next up, we have The Other Guys, Adam McKay's hilarious cop spoof with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. Who knew that these two guys would be so fun together, and they work perfectly.
They really do. It's some of the greatest lines, like, Gator, don't play that.
The cucumber accents the water in such a way.
So funny.
I was hoping for the water.
Imagine where you'd be at in your career if you didn't shoot Jeter. And then we have Shanghai Noon, another Jackie Chan action comedy, except this time his sidekick is now Owen Wilson. They pair just as well together probably as Jackie and Chris Tucker. They complement each other. Their comedic takes very similarly. Really fun. Shanghai Noon, we talked about in the Jackie Chan episode also. Great production. Still holds up today. And Shanghai Nights is also another great action comedy.
And then we have Hot Fuzz, which I think is Edgar Wright's funniest movie. It's another spoof of cops and how serious action is portrayed in movies. And it's just a wonderful film. The filmmaking, the acting, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, I love it.
It has great action sequences, so it made this action section. And, I mean, Simon Pegg is hysterical. He's one of my favorite comedians in film today, and I love seeing him in everything he's done because he does this, and then he's in the Mission Impossibles and Star Trek. He's on fire. The guy's a machine.
You know what he's doing? He's firing on all cylinders.
He's knocking everything out of the park. Then we have The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which Anthony said maybe that doesn't deserve to be on this list at first, but I'm like, I love The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It is
I'm
very
just saying
funny.
It's not like comedy.
It is, dude.
It's
I'm
funny.
Watch it again. It's hysterical. Yeah. It's they have a bunch of really great.
You
jokes
just love watching Henry Cavill.
I love Henry Cavill. I mean, who doesn't?
No, I love him too.
I mean, the sequence where Armie Hammer's on the boats getting chased by the police and everything, and then Henry Cavill's character is just eating a sandwich that he finds in the truck, watching it happen with the Italian music playing in the background. Dude, This movie's so funny.
Next up, we have Kung Fu Hustle, which is a hysterical Chinese film. It's so much fun, so goofy and zany and silly. Cool special effects. The fights are a lot of fun, and it's just a ridiculous ride. It's terrific. We loved it as kids.
And then finally, in the action comedy section, we have The Nice Guys, which is such an underrated movie. Unfortunately, it didn't perform super well at the box office, meaning it probably won't get a sequel. It stars Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. This is a Shane Black film. I think it might be Shane Black's best movie. I mean, he did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, but The Nice Guys is such a great take on the buddy cop. Them two together, it's just like cinematic magic, these two superstars, and just flexing their comedic chops because they are very funny guys despite doing a lot of dramatic films. Love every minute of The Nice Guys.
It is time to move on to wedding movies.
Ooh.
So I think the funniest wedding movie, it could be Wedding Crashers, Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. I forgot his name for a second. Iconic. Will Ferrell with his cameo as Chaz at the end. Isla Fisher is so funny in this as like that crazy girl who's like obsessed with Vince Vaughn.
Stage 5 clinger.
Yeah, Stage 5 clinger. She's so funny in this. She steals every scene she's in. And then Christopher Walken's great.
Rachel McAdams too.
Yeah, Rachel McAdams,
and then Bradley Cooper in one of his biggest roles and early in his career as the antagonist. It's a classic. It's a lot of fun. You know, it's got some heart to it at the end. Somehow they're making a sequel to this. I think that's coming out next year or this year. And we'll see. Hopefully they can pull it off again. But this was a big movie. It made a ton of the box office. Next up, we have Bridesmaids, which is an iconic wedding comedy. Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph, Melissa McCarthy. This movie's legendary, and I know like a lot of girls, they like to like base their wedding showers off of like a theme of Bridesmaids, and it's a lot of fun. Great jokes. The opening sequence is hysterical with John Hamm, her climbing over the wall and everything like that. Kristen Wiig is super funny. She's such a star in this
Rose
movie.
Byrne too.
Yeah.
Next up, we have My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which was a terrific comedy, took the country by storm. It became one of the most successful, profitable films of all time for a good reason. It's terrific, so well written, well acted, and a lot of fun, and brings the Greek culture into American consciousness like no other film did before it.
Now let's move into obscure comedy. And now these are movies that maybe not everyone's seen that we think are great comedies at the same time as being great movies. First up, we have Napoleon Dynamite, which is about as obscure and weird as people thought it would get, but this was a huge hit. This took high schools by storm. Everyone was quoting Napoleon Dynamite. I still see people wearing Vote for Pedro shirts. Super funny, just like kind of like a one-hit wonder of a movie that just like everyone loves.
Next up, we have The Lobster by Yorgos Lanthimos. Excellent cast, Colin Farrell, John C. Reilly. Amazing concept where in a world where if you don't have a partner, you're going to be turned into an animal. And it's just this crazy situation. Such great dark humor. So well done. I highly recommend it.
And then we have Sorry to Bother You. This stars Lakeith Stanfield. And it's a really cool movie because it's sort of like this comedic, surrealist take on a story. It's really like intriguing the way it goes from the first act and then moving forwards. But I think it's a great performance from Lakeith, kind of like a big star-making role from him besides Get Out. And I think it's just a terrific movie and
crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It's crazy. Next up, we have Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny. Jack Black and his partner in crime, I can't remember his name, but their band's movie. It's a lot of fun. It's ridiculous. Satan shows up. It's a zany movie, but very entertaining.
And then Logan Lucky, which is a heist movie with Daniel Craig, who plays some crazy Southern guy.
I said no peeking.
And then we have Adam Driver and then Channing Tatum together. So it's a great trio of like well-known, talented actors doing great comedy.
Soderbergh. Next up, we have our section on dark comedies. This is a great list. Okay. The first one I think is the best dark comedy ever is American Psycho. You all know this movie, and Christian Bale, I think his best performance. But this movie, as messed up as it is, I find endlessly hysterical and laugh out loud. I love it.
Gets funnier every time I watch it. I don't know what that says about me. Then we have In Bruges.
In fucking Bruges?
Starring Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson and Ralph Fiennes. Really good movie, but also super dry humor, hysterical. Great filmmaking. I like it a lot. It's just like one of those kind of obscure dark comedies. It's about a hitman who wants to take his own life after he accidentally kills a kid, and it's really fucking good.
It's well done. So well done. Next up, we have A Serious Man by the Coen brothers about a Jewish man whose life is falling apart in many ways, and he's trying to just keep things together. It's so funny, so weird, and perfectly written. I adore this film.
And then we have The Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese's funniest movie, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill. This movie, I don't think they meant for it to become as funny as it was, but it's hysterical. Laugh out loud. Every freaking minute of this movie is great. Jonah Hill had a lot of improvisation, infused a ton of comedy into the script. Leo does a great job with comedic acting. Also with his physical acting is super funny. McConaughey is great. Just this wild, stranger than fiction story about Jordan Belfort and his company. It's so damn good.
Next up, we have the Coen brothers, Burn After Reading. Such an amazing, hilarious, and shocking dark film. This stars in a great cast of Frances McDormand, Brad Pitt, John Malkovich, among many others. It is hysterical. You've never seen Brad Pitt do comedy like this before, and he's perfect. And Frances McDormand, again, steals the show. I highly recommend this film. It is a lot of fun.
I think it's their funniest movie. Fargo's very funny as well, but that's in the 90s. But I think Burn After Reading, if you've never seen it, it's very dry humor, funny take on espionage, and it's a good time. And now let's move into our section on animated movies. And we'll begin with Shrek. Shrek is hysterical.
I think it's the funniest kids animated movie.
It really is really funny. Mike Myers is a very funny guy, and coming out of the 90s with Austin Powers, and then before that with SNL, and now he's voicing Shrek, and he just infuses so much humor into the character and the role, and people still love Shrek so much.
And Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy too.
Them two bouncing off each other is great.
And then Antonio Banderas.
Oh yeah,
it's just really great scenes as well.
I think Shrek's an iconic animated film for kids.
Sure
is. I think it is the funniest for kids. Next up, we have Wes Anderson's The Fantastic Mr. Fox, a terrific adaptation of the famous book. Stop motion. You have a kids movie, but
unlike any other. It has the Wes Anderson humor and style and tone, and man, does it work perfectly. And then South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. I forgot this came out this century.
Yeah.
It just made it like 2000, 2001-ish, something like that.
Yeah, 2000.
And I mean, South Park, we grew up watching it as kids. We have older brothers, so South Park was always one of our favorite shows. And when this came out, they finally made a movie. It was ridiculous. It was raunchy, vulgar, offensive. That's their thing. That's what they do. And they made a movie somehow out of those characters, and it was great.
This was the biggest show on TV for kids, I think, South Park.
For kids?
Yeah.
Or young
for
adults?
teenagers.
Young adults.
Like, South Park was like what our brothers were watching, so we were watching it. And this movie, when it came out, every kid wanted to see it. And a lot of theaters had to deal with kids sneaking into the movie. Next up, we have Sausage Party, which comes from Seth Rogen and the other guys from that Judd Apatow crew, as well as actresses like Kristen Wiig. And it is a rated R animated film that they pulled off really well. It's about different foods and ingredients in a grocery store who are alive and they're trying to escape. It's very vulgar, very sexually charged, and very raunchy, but it's so funny.
Yeah, it's like Toy Story with food and rated R.
Yeah. And then Nick Kroll's a douche.
Oh my gosh. And then we have Lego Movie. Now, I thought the tone that they captured with the Lego movies was great, and the first one was exceptional. Chris Pratt voicing the main character. I think this is Warner Brothers distributed, but they really just did a great job taking this property, this kids' toys property that everyone loved playing with, and then turning it into a fun animated film. And
It
now
was genius.
They've made
Yeah.
different versions of it. The CGI is really great in these movies.
It is CGI.
Yeah, I know we've made clips and stuff and talked about how like they put fingerprints on it. That's just to make it seem realistic, like someone was
Yeah.
picking up and playing with
It's
it.
not stop motion. They designed it to look like it's
Yeah,
stop motion.
That's how good the CGI is.
Yeah. Next up, we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is definitely one of the most recent movies on this list. Not only is it a terrific film, it did win Best Picture for Best Animated Film, but it is hilarious, especially the first half of this film. It's laugh out loud funny. I think Jake Johnson is hilarious in this movie. He steals every moment that he's in. He's just perfect as the lazy
Peter B.
Peter B. It's terrific, and I think this is a really great movie for young kids.
And then we have Pixar's Monsters Inc., which is hilarious. Mike and Sully, an iconic duo. Pixar's known for their duos, but I think these two just as good probably as Buzz and Woody with Toy Story. And I think Monsters Inc. is a lot of fun. Like every Pixar movie has a lot of heart, but I think that the earlier Pixar movies were funnier than the later ones. The later concepts, like Toy Story 4 is also on this list, so we'll say Toy Story 4 for animated films is also on here because, it's still the original Pixar, like the early days of Pixar. I think those movies were generated more for comedy.
More silly.
They're still funny today, but I think more jokes in the earlier
if you
ones.
compare it to like Coco.
Coco is a
or
funny movie,
Encanto,
too.
but it's very rich in mature themes and storytelling and
Yeah.
has great symbolism. But Monsters Inc. is just, it has those, but it's so much fun. I think Monsters Inc. is the funniest Pixar movie.
Yeah, probably.
And then we have The Incredibles, which came out before Marvel Studios movies, mind you. Pixar was doing superheroes way before anyone. Written and directed by Brad Bird. It was his baby. He came up with the entire story. Terrific film. Highly memorable characters. Awesome villain. A really good time for kids and families.
Finding Nemo, we're also put on this list. This movie's hysterical.
It's very funny,
I think it's
yeah.
a top 3 Pixar movie too.
You're right
probably.
about the pairs for Pixar.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
The duos.
The duos are iconic, and Finding Nemo, Dory, and Marlin are great
Yeah.
together. And
They're not. Are they doing pairs as much as they used to nowadays?
kind of. So Encanto, I guess you could say there's more of like a lead
It's an
character.
ensemble.
Like even with Luca, there's
Yeah.
more of a lead versus like the pairs. There's still the
Uh-huh.
pairs. Like Luca, there's pairs, but it's about Luca's the main character. Whereas like the classic, like Buzz and Woody are like equal pairs.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like the older movies they were reliant on the duo.
Soul is
Mike
like,
and Sully.
there's the pair aspect. Even with Soul, there's a pair quality, but like there's a lead
It's
to that
one
movie.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about a singular character for the most part. Even you could say that that's kind of like the past ones, but it's less. It's more of like it's like 60-40 split up. I would say.
Gotcha. Thanks for that percentage.
Especially Coco, same thing, but Coco's more of a lead character story.
He pairs up with a guy, but like it's the kid's story.
yeah, the skeleton guy.
Yeah.
the dead guy.
Next up, we have Toy Story 4, which is both, like you said, it's very emotional, very touching, but hysterical. I was laughing out loud in the theater. It's really fun.
Next up is Wall-E, which is my favorite Pixar movie, and I think it's hysterical. And the thing with Wall-E is they had to create a comedic tone without much dialogue going on. And it's got a very silent film quality to the entire movie, which I think works so well. Plus, the entire concept of what human beings have turned into is hysterical and
It's accurate.
Probably a look into the future of humanity. But Wall-E's very funny, very heartfelt, and it's my number one Pixar movie.
Wall-E.
Eva.
I've only seen it once. I got to watch it again.
It's great, man.
Next up, we have DreamWorks' Kung Fu Panda. It's hard for DreamWorks to compete with Pixar, but I think with movies like Kung Fu Panda, they do a great job holding their own. Jack Black steals the show, Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan. It's a terrific cast of voice actors and a lot of fun for animation and a cool story as well.
Let's move into horror comedy.
Yes.
And this is going to be a short list. Topping the list is Shaun of the Dead, the second film from Edgar Wright on this list. Not just one of the funniest movies ever made, especially this century, but one of the best horror movies in general, because in addition to being a horror comedy, it's a great horror movie, a great zombie movie. It could be the best zombie movie ever made.
Yeah, you could definitely make the argument. Great gore. Lots to go. Lots going for it. Next up,
that should be the tagline for the movie.
Lots to go.
Shaun of the Dead. Lots to go.
I'm studying. What's happening is I've been studying Italian, and for the last few days, when I try to say something, I keep getting my words mixed up.
Your brain will start to change too.
It's wild. Next up, we have Zombieland, which is another zombie movie. Obviously, the second one I honestly think sucks, but this
too
one,
much CGI.
This
and
one
green
is
screen.
This one's awesome. It's so much fun. Woody Harrelson, I think, is just like the centerpiece of the movie and what makes the movie really work because he's so endlessly, infectiously likable and so cool. And I think that it's a great cast. Obviously, you have Emma Stone and Jesse Eisenberg and Amanda Bree. What's her name? I can't remember her name. Sorry.
Wow.
She's an Oscar nominee too. But great cast, awesome gore and action. Rated R humor, super fun.
Love the tone, love the graphics implemented into the film, and just like the fun
graphics,
approach of him talking to the audience, narration, stuff like that. Really good. First one's way better than the second one. And the final movie on our horror comedy section is Cabin in the Woods, which is a very underrated horror movie, I think. It's super funny, very meta, and it's supposed to be meta. It's a critique and parody kind of horror movies while also being a serious horror movie because, the first half is super fun, lots of jokes, lots of laughs, but then it gets serious and turns into a real horror movie, but not losing that meta quality to it.
I think it could have the best screenplay in horror movie history. It's so genius of a concept and the approach. It was so original when it came out. I love it. Okay, next up, we have another special section. We have the holiday comedy section. So we're going to go with Elf for our number one pick. Another early Will Ferrell role that he absolutely killed.
So
you should
funny.
do it the whole time. And this is, I think this, so he did Zoolander. Okay. He did Zoolander, Old School, and Elf within like 3 years.
And Anchorman.
And so within 4 years. That's a crazy run of movies. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, super successful. Buddy the Elf is iconic, and it's just ridiculously funny. Again, most comedies, I think the strengths of them for their comedic tone are the first half of the movies, and the first act of this movie is really, really funny.
And Jon Favreau's debut.
Next up, we have How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And Jon Favreau's directorial debut?
Yeah.
I believe it's his second movie.
It's his first.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. You can Google it if you want.
Anyways, you Google while I talk about the next film.
Well, I don't need to Google it, but
How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Jim Carrey, one of the best performances of his career. He did so much in this role. How do you turn the Grinch, one of the most beloved Christmas animated cartoon movies of all time, into a real life character? And he really is the only option and choice you could think of playing this role. Really funny, super hysterical. It's a great movie. Ron Howard made this. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
You're right.
Told you.
So he directed Made,
A couple years before this,
with Vince Vaughn, which is like the one they did after Swingers.
Yeah.
I thought he just wrote it
because he wrote Swingers. He didn't direct Swingers.
Yeah. Oh, great job. Great. Wow.
Fact check. True.
Man, I'm just gonna go retire. See you guys later.
Might as well. You look like a fool. Afterbirth should have put you in a jar on the mantelpiece. Where were you when Jim was getting things right?
It's good. It's Daddy of Plainview for anyone who doesn't know. It's a great one. Next up, we have The Night Before, which stars Anthony Mackie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Seth Rogen. Awesome trio. It's super fun. Very R-rated adult humor. It's very much like a stoner comedy during the holidays as well. I think that these three were just so much fun together.
Plus, it really blended Jewish holidays with Catholic and Christian Christmas holidays really well, and everyone in their cultures colliding and working together, and just three best buds going through growth and dealing with past and stuff like that. And there's some great cameos. I mean, freaking what's her name? Miley Cyrus is in this movie. It's
Michael Shannon, as a drug dealer.
It's really funny.
It's great.
And then Daddy's Home, which I think is honestly really funny.
It is.
It's like Mel Gibson, Mark Wahlberg together is ridiculous.
And when Will Ferrell's dad is John Lithgow coming down the escalator, Daddy! And they kiss on the lips. He's like, okay, next up, we have Cult Comedies. So these are comedies. A couple of them are recent, but we think that even though they weren't super popular when they were released, most of them, they have become iconic for lovers of film because of their rewatchability. So I think the best one of the 21st century is Super Troopers. Big box office bomb, but it got a lot of success on video rental market and also DVD sales. It is iconic. It's so funny. It's perfect for like teenagers, like just raunchy rated R humor about these cops who are just like all aimless boneheads. It's great.
We watched this a lot when we were kids, for sure. Maybe.
Hey, what's that place you love with all the shit on the walls? You mean tchotchkes? You mean shenanigans?
Shenanigans? No more shenanigans.
Somebody says shenanigans one more time. Oh, Brian Cox is that. Yeah,
you're right. It's Brian Cox. Love Super Troopers. It's great. I'm putting Game Night up on here for sure. We all know how much I love this movie. Super funny. I think it still doesn't get the appreciation that it deserves, but I think in time, people get to look back on it and realize that it was a hilarious movie.
James was right.
James was right. Rachel McAdams showing up for like the third time on this episode.
Yeah, she does great in comedy.
Jason Bateman and then Jesse Plemons. This cast is so fun. It's hysterical. Great concept. It's original, which I loved about it. It was cool filmmaking as well. Really well.
Also, that
movie.
guy from the new James Bond is in it.
Yeah.
I
can't remember.
But I can't remember his name.
Yeah, good time.
Next up, we have Crazy Rich Asians, which was a huge success when it came out a few years ago. Adaptation of the famous book when it was a bestseller, and this satisfied fans of the book and new audience members. I think it was a terrific film. Super funny. Has great themes and a lot of romance. I think it was a lot of fun. Also made Awkwafina a household name as well. She's great in it.
And then Idiocracy, which is starring Luke Wilson, which is strangely reflective of society now because he goes in the future in this movie?
He goes into the future,
so he travels into the future. Haven't seen it in a while. And the future is just America's a disaster. We have like reality show leader, like a wrestler is president, and just
everyone's drinking. Everyone's giving plants Gatorade because it has what plants crave.
Yeah. It's kind of surreal how close to reality it kind of is, but also in a fantastical way. But it's very reflective on the way the society is going, and it's kind of silly.
It basically the whole premise is that in the future everyone's an idiot.
Yeah, it's silly how accurate it's becoming.
Yeah. Next up, another cult classic is Wet Hot American Summer. It has the most iconic cast probably on this list. A bunch of huge actors before anybody knew their names, including like Paul Rudd and
Elizabeth
Banks. They have huge roles in this. It's a lot of fun. It takes place at a summer camp, and all the characters within that camp, it's super funny.
Yeah, they're like the camp counselors. Yeah. They're just all ridiculous. It's really, really funny. Next up, we have Waiting with Ryan Reynolds. He also, like, you could say Van Wilder should be on this list too, because those two movies were not super successful, but like word of mouth, VHS DVD rentals, and just like cult comedy, those like helped propel Ryan Reynolds into stardom. Like those are the movies he got. Then he got like Blade Trinity and stuff like that. But Van Wilder and Waiting, if you ever worked in a restaurant, Waiting is a very relatable movie. And then Van Wilder is just a ridiculously raunchy college movie.
Yeah, and Justin Long was in Waiting as well.
Yeah, he's the lead character.
And Dane Cook was the cook.
Yeah.
But in Van Wilder, it's with what's her name from American Pie?
Reid.
Tara Reid. But Van Wilder, I think, really made him it made everyone our age love Ryan Reynolds. That was the first one, I think, for him. Van Wilder.
Because he was, and then he has a cameo in Harold and Kumar too.
Yeah.
He's like a doctor, right?
Yeah.
A surgeon.
Yeah.
So he was like a cult comedy like icon. I feel like.
Yeah, but Van Wilder, it's so raunchy and crazy. It's silly and gross and offensive, but it's Ryan Reynolds showing. He basically showed what he can do. What
It's
he's
just
capable
him.
of.
It's just
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds' show.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's great.
Then we have Me, Myself, and Irene, which I think is a very underrated Jim Carrey movie, also starring Renee Zellweger. He's super funny. He plays a guy with split personality disorder, and it's just ridiculous, him and going back and forth, changing identities. It's so freaking funny.
Why am I peeing like I had sex all night? He's like using the framed photo to stop it. It's like going everywhere.
It's so freaking funny.
You're right. I think it is very underrated for Jim Carrey because he does great acting in it.
Yeah,
as both characters.
It's a tough role to do.
Yeah. And then we have 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. Their next collaboration after The Wedding Singer. Again, they bring the charm and charisma and their chemistry. It's super fun. Very, very sweet movie.
Now let's move into the final section of the episode, our honorable mentions. These are like movies that it's hard to kind of
didn't know what to do
place,
with them.
But also
Yeah.
some of them aren't complete comedies, but we think that they're just like still solid to always, they're high rewatch value and a lot of fun. Starting with Bruce Almighty, another Jim Carrey movie. This was a great one that they tried to make a sequel to with Evan Almighty with Steve Carell. Just wasn't quite as good, but the concept is great where someone gets godlike powers and just what would they would do with it.
Jim's awesome. And then obviously Morgan Freeman's perfect as God. Great, great movie. Next up, we have White Chicks, where the Wayans brothers go undercover as white girls. It's so ridiculous, so funny.
Terry Crews.
Yeah,
is,
Terry
like, in love with
Crews.
one of them.
I forgot about that. Oh my god, with their blonde wigs, and it's like the kind of woman they're playing. It's so funny. Like they're playing like it would be like a TikTok influencer type nowadays, but like girls who were like dressed like Bratz dolls. This is what they're dressed like. Remember Bratz dolls?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Their outfits are unbelievable. I can't believe they even pulled it off. It's great.
And then we have Keanu, which a Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Kay movie. And this is coming off of this is 2016, so this is like just off Key and Peele.
Yeah,
I
it
think
just
they're-
finished.
You're pretty
It's
much
their
done with
first-
the
yeah.
show, which is one of the
Their
best
first thing post.
best sketch TV shows of all time.
I think it's the
maybe
best.
the best.
Yeah.
And Key and Peele are hilarious, and it's about their cute kitten who gets kidnapped, and it's just like the journey trying to get him back. And
Oh my God.
it's the kitten's name is Keanu. It's just so ridiculous. The marketing campaign of this was so fun. Like the kitty's got like a crazy
Do-rag.
like a gangster outfit on with chains and stuff like that.
So silly, so dumb. Oh my god.
The trailer was great for that
Yeah,
movie too.
yeah. Next up, we have Barbershop, which was an Ice Cube leading film. Very funny. The conversations are hilarious. Awesome cast. And Ice Cube, I think he's a very good actor for rappers. And I think he's up there.
Yeah, he's pretty solid. He's
Yeah.
been in a lot of movies,
Yeah.
for sure. So I mean, why not?
But
I think he's good.
Everyone's hilarious in this movie.
And then we have 50-50 with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen. Now, this movie is also, it's very funny, lots of great jokes, but it's also very dramatic. It's intense. It's somebody going through cancer, but I think that the movie and the characters and the screenplay do a great job of walking that line of going back and forth and not letting the comedy outshine the tragedy of what's happening and how hard of a situation Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is going through. But I think it's still, in addition to being a great movie about overcoming intense difficulties in life, super funny.
Great way to sum it up.
Thanks, man.
Next up, we have Hot Rod, which I actually don't agree with putting on this list, but James wanted to put it on.
Got it. It's
I think
classic.
that this movie is, I think it's not funny at all. I think that Hot Rod, I wanted to like it a lot because I love Andy Samberg and what he always did on SNL. And I like his recent one, Palm Springs. But when I watched this movie, I only laughed once. It was during one moment when he's in the woods dancing. Otherwise, I was like, this movie sucks. I don't know what it was. For me, I just didn't find it funny.
Hey, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, but
I think
a
it's one
lot
of
of
those
people
silly
like
movies that you got to
it.
put
A
on.
lot of people like it, though.
Yeah. And then the final movie on the entire episode is Dolomite Is My Name. It's not exactly a comedy. I would say it's a little more drama, but it has a lot of funny moments. But I think I wanted to put it on the list most importantly because it's the return of Eddie Murphy, who was one of the biggest stars in the 80s and 90s, especially with comedy, action comedies, Beverly Hills and everything like that. And then he's returning to cinema because, he kind of fizzled out with the Nutty Professor movies and some of those other movies.
Doolittle.
He was doing Dr. Doolittle.
And
Norbert.
Norbert.
Those were like the late 90s, early 2000s. And then he didn't do anything for a long time.
He had a couple of really big bombs.
But then Dolomite Is His Name was like his return to being a comedic star, an acting star. And so we're putting on that list for sure. And it's good. It's a really good movie.
And now he's pretty busy now. He obviously did Coming to America, and then he has a bunch of movies coming out with Amazon and Netflix, I believe. So he's going to be making a ton of stuff in the coming years.
And that wraps our funniest movies of the 21st century. We really hope you enjoyed this list.
It was extensive.
If we missed some, let us know, because this was tough to make. I mean, we put like 80 movies on this, something like that.
Yeah.
There's just so many to go through.
I feel like we couldn't narrow it down to 10.
We had to,
It'd be
it was impossible. So we just like, screw it, let's just do a bunch. It was hard to cut. We had to make some tough calls on some movies, but I think this is like a really solid list of really some of the funniest movies this century for sure.
I'm really impressed with what you did with this list, and I'm glad that
Oh shucks,
I got to hear your opinion about these movies.
Likewise, man. That was a weird compliment from you. Unusual. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for tuning in around the world. Be sure to check out recent episodes if you haven't. Our Jackie Chan Spotlight. We did the Batman last
That's a good
week.
one.
If you haven't tuned in, we have some more great stuff coming for you next week.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Raiders of the Lost podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Find us on all audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Raiders of the Lost podcast. Be sure to check out one of these other videos right here for more content on our favorite films and breaking down all kinds of movie content. Thanks so much.